Howdy, welcome to my 5th mock draft of the 2024 NBA draft cycle, and the first featuring the entire first round. As always, these mocks are thought experiments to familiarize you with prospects, their potential ranges, fits, outcomes, and just generally incite some NBA draft discussion. And I genuinely don't do this often, but before we jump into the mock, I would kindly request all of the subs, likes, whatever else. It really helps me towards my goal of being able to do this YouTube thing more often. So without further ado, let's jump into it. For the second straight mock, we have the Atlanta Hawks taking Alex Sarr first overall. I expect Atlanta to shop this pick around for win-now players, do their due diligence on prospects like Zachary Riza-Shea, Matas Buzelis, Nikola Topic, even Donovan Clingan. But I expect them to eventually land on what they need to do, and that's select Sarr before others can. At 7'1", Sarr immediately infuses the Hawks with exactly what they need: a high-octane rim runner and versatile rim protector who will be able to switch and guard on the perimeter with ease down the line. And he's got one of the higher ceilings in this class with some projectable three-point shooting and off-the-dribble play. As I've said before, Sarr both works as a stopgap for the current roster configuration with Trae Young, or a launchpad for the team into a rebuild. Second overall, we've got what's likely to be an unconventional selection amongst mock drafts in G League Ignite wing Matas Buzelis to Washington, but it's a pick that I think makes a ton of sense. The Wizards could go any number of directions at number 2, Topic as their point guard of the future, Riza-Shea as a high-floor 3-and-D wing, Stephon Castle as another lineup filler before the 25 and 26 drafts. I've gone with the swing on Buzelis as one of the higher ceiling picks in this draft. It's no secret the Wizards are in zero hurry. Their GM Will Dawkins alluded to it in a radio spot the other day, saying they're drafting to have the best player in 3 to 4 seasons, not necessarily next year. And while Buzelis is a project, he could very well blossom into that with time. He's 6'9" and can do just about everything, despite not being able to fluidly put it all together just yet. But if the things like the handle, three-point shot, and point forward flashes gain consistency, he has all-star potential down the line. I have some stock in him being one of the better players from this class, and even the low-end outcome could still be a valuable contributor if he hits his threes. Third overall, we have the Rockets selecting UConn center Donovan Clingan, who's really begun gaining steam as a top 3 to 5 pick in this draft. Again, I'm not really sure that I buy that. Atlanta should be comfortable with Sarr. I don't buy Clingan to Washington unless they're comfortable with his future three-point shot. And I think the Spurs and Pistons go different directions. So if there's a team that's going to grab him, it feels like Houston. And this does make some sense. At a legit 7'3", Clingan is a potent rim protector capable of changing the game in near any stretch of basketball. He gets easy offense with his size, and his role is extremely projectable in the NBA. Best of all, he covers a lot of the low points of the Rockets' centrifugal piece in Alperen Sengun. The Rockets recently traded for Steven Adams, a somewhat similar archetype, but he's got just 1 year remaining on his deal, and there's potential health concerns coming off injury, so they could lock in their true center of the future in Clingan with their lottery jump this year. Fourth overall, San Antonio takes a gamble on Nikola Topic of Red Star, who's recently hit some injury obstacles but remains one of the higher ceiling ball handlers in this draft. Plenty of people seem to be in a rush to get Victor Wembanyama to contention, which I get. He's a special, generational talent. But time and again, we've seen teams hit the red button much too soon and leave themselves without assets and tangible ways to improve the roster. Patience should be the name of the game with the Spurs. Build through the draft, grab high ceiling prospects this year capable of growing alongside Wemby, as well as making him better. Topic fits that mold as a 6'6" ball handler and table setter that can probe the court with his EuroLeague style. It'll be less immediately rewarding than a Trae Young or a Darius Garland, but should absolutely be the thought process moving forward for San Antonio. At number 5, we've got the Detroit Pistons taking a shot on Reed Sheppard of Kentucky, a pick I've mocked before and a fit I really like on several fronts. I know, at first glance, mocking a 6'2" combo guard to the Pistons seems crazy, but Sheppard addresses so many of Detroit's biggest issues in one high-floor pick. The team ranked 30th in steals, 30th in points off turnovers, 26th in three-point percentage. Sheppard is one of, if not the best shooter in this draft, 52% on 4.4 attempts per game. He racked up over 3 stocks per game. He can play off of Cade Cunningham, hit threes, cut, and generally make things easier on the team. He can play on ball, using his high IQ, assuming some of the playmaking duties. He's going to rack up those steals and blocks with great hands and feel for the game, And you've still got Azar Thompson at the point of attack, and Cade Cunningham, both really lengthy. I think Shepherd makes the team better as soon as next season, gives Cunningham a strong backcourt fit for the foreseeable future, and lets you move off some pieces and mix up the roster for the better moving forward. At number 6, we've got the Charlotte Hornets selecting Stephon Castle, a fit and range I really like for the UConn guard. The only real hitch in this plan is that Castle's been pretty adamant in the pre-draft process about wanting to play point guard at the next level. I personally am not immensely high on that. For now, I really like him as a handling wing and secondary creator, especially in the Hornets system where LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller can handle the bulk of the offensive duties, while Castle hounds at the point of attack, connects the offense with passing, and hones that spot-up shooting, secondarily adding the slashing, creating, and the stuff he apparently wants to do. The three-point shooting isn't great at this juncture, but that is well covered by Ball and Miller, and that three-headed attack of lengthy handlers down the line could be really fun if Charlotte can fill out its front court, and that's a direction I really think the NBA is headed towards. Finally off the board at number 7 is French wing Zachary Riz-Shea, likely too far of a slip here with his recent output in the LMB Pro A postseason, but still somewhat of a possibility if the above teams fall in love with creators or better win now options. As a 6'9 wing who projects to really shoot the three ball and defend at a high level, Riz-Shea fits exceptionally well with the Trailblazers' young core, to the point I think he'll be a trade-up option for them if he makes it by San Antonio, which he might not. In that middle area between Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Simons, and the front court pieces, Riz-Shea could spot up, get to the rim with simple dribble driving, and guard his natural position in wings and smaller forwards. Best of all, Portland is in no real rush to win games, and while the team is in development mode, Riz-Shea can attempt to tap into some of those intriguing creation and passing upsides. A pick I was accosted, lambasted, ridiculed for last time, Rob Dillingham finds himself in San Antonio's clutches at number 8. Even in a theoretical draft where San Antonio's already come away with a point guard in Nikola Topic, Dillingham does make a ton of sense as a spark plug scorer that can play off of Wembanyama in either a combo guard role or even running the second unit. Despite being around 6'1", Dillingham has tremendous upside as a handler, passer, and just general advantage creator, which the team definitely wants next to Wemby. In this scenario, alongside Topic, the two could play in tandem with each other, toggling between on and off ball reps while Wemby commands attention. It'd be a really fun yin and yang of two players who can both get paint touches, shoot, and make plays for each other and Wemby at moment's notice. Defensively, Dillingham likely has the case to be the worst among the top 14, but in this case he'd have a player who's on track to be one of the greatest ever in that regard, right behind him. At number 9, we've got Memphis grabbing firepower in the form of Tennessee's Dalton Knecht. With their top center options off the board already, the Grizzlies load up here on more offense and win now prowess with Knecht, who lit up college basketball this season with 21.7 points per game. At 23 years old, his skills as an off-ball scorer are immediately going to translate. He can spot up, come off screens, handle the ball, and is just generally an offensive supernova. The defense isn't one of the more workable skills in this draft, but Knecht's offensive skills are proven to work alongside the Grizzlies' core of Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. In this situation, Knecht would likely come off the bench, but could play pretty vital minutes for Memphis as early as next season, and for a team that's looking to win games. Number 10, the Utah Jazz get what I believe to be a real steal in Ron Holland of the G League Ignite. I continue to have him as one of my top prospects in this draft, offering baseline skills like a high defensive motor and some snappy athleticism, as well as an improving offensive game that I think is really going to be bolstered by NBA talent, specifically guards. With the Jazz, Holland slots in nicely as a transition threat and point of attack defender on the wing who can improve on things like spot-up shooting, creating, and the passing and playmaking. I think Utah should be on the lookout for a big swing pick to really send this roster to the next level, and I think they get it here with Ron Holland. I continue to assert that the Chicago Bulls desperately need to add high-ceiling youth to the team in order to prepare for the future, and Colorado forward Cody Williams is a great swing at that while also grabbing some baseline NBA skills. Williams is a 6'9 wing with a good transition game, pretty outstanding defense, and workable spot-up shooting numbers that should help him see the NBA court early. But he's also flashed great stuff as a point forward with shot making and playmaking. In short, Williams fills a position of need, could see some early career minutes in Chicago, and could blossom into much more with the right developmental path. Strong pick here for Chicago. 12th overall, we've got the Oklahoma City Thunder taking a chance on Kyle Filipowski of Duke. Flip was a highly touted high school prospect. He put together a few pretty productive seasons with the Blue Devils, but hasn't yet fully capitalized on his potential as a 7-footer who's able to play a lot of different ways. There's a clear pathway towards success for Flip with the Thunder in the form of backup center minutes and double big minutes with Chet Holmgren. He fits the team's versatility bill with improving 3-point shooting, 8 rebounds per game, 3 assists, some post offense, and workable defense. Despite not being an elite rebounder, he gives OKC more size. Chip England can work on that 3-point shot. Big actions with Holmgren would be really fun. I'm skeptical he'd be impactful in year 1, but that's a project that's well worth it for Oklahoma City. At number 13, we have the Sacramento Kings using their lottery pick on Tristan da Silva of Colorado, who I think is one of a few wing/forwards capable of making an impact in year 1. At 6'8", da Silva doesn't boast any really elite skills, but he's the definition of plug and play in terms of handling the ball, knocking down shots, both spotting up and off screens, defending with length, connective passing. The Kings are rightfully looking to win ball games next season. They've got good front and backcourt pieces. I like Da Silva as a versatile prospect in the middle ground off the bench that can help to size up. I don't think this is maximum value at this spot necessarily, but if you're wanting someone to hit the ground running, Da Silva is your guy. Rounding out the lottery, we have the Portland Trail Blazers with a pick I've mocked a few times now, Tejon Salon of Cholet in the LMB Pro A League. Salon, like Riza Shea, has had strong output in the postseason, so there's a chance he's worked himself even higher than this spot. At 6'9", he can attack the basket, both on and off ball, he can spot up, and there's these lightning quick flashes of good feel for the game at a young age. While there's plenty of development needed overall, the bones are there for a massive do-it-all forward, and similarly to their early pick, that would do wonders for the Portland Trail Blazers, who at this point are just looking to add youth and talent inbounds. A lineup of Scoot, Sharp, 2 lengthy two-way French wings, and one of the team's versatile frontcourt pieces wouldn't be a bad swing moving forward. Kicking off the post-lottery are the Miami Heat, who here take Devin Carter of Providence, who showcased elite two-way production as a junior with the Friars. At 6'3", Carter's peskiness was a known factor on the defensive end of the court, again posting 2.8 stocks per game in his latest season. But he saw an offensive surge to nearly 20 points per game with 37% shooting from beyond the arc on almost 7 attempts. His 8.7 rebounds per game are also significant. Similarly to the Jaime Jaquez Jr. pick last season, Carter offers the Heat what should be a pretty impactful player off the rip in an area of need. The shooting isn't likely a huge strength from the get-go, but he would likely be able to toggle on and off ball while offering patented Heat culture defense and intangibles. Love the fit with Devin Carter in Miami. At 16, we have Philadelphia grabbing some forward insurance in Tyler Smith of the G League Ignite. At 6'10", Smith has several baseline offensive skills that should be translatable to the big leagues fairly quickly. He's got great vertical athleticism, pull-up shot making, and some play finishing in transition, pick and roll, and the dunker spot. He slots in easily long-term with the gravity of guys like Tyrese Maxey and of course Joel Embiid. Smith likely wouldn't be a strong year 1 contributor, but he'd offer some easy insurance at the forward position with Tobias Harris' departure from the squad and the eventual phasing out of guys like Nick Batum. There's better defensive gambles should the team want to swing that direction, but I like Smith as an eventual piece in Philly's core. 17th overall, we've got the New Orleans Pelicans taking Duke guard Jared McCain. I don't really anticipate McCain to fall this far. In fact, I think there's a great chance he ends up mid to late lottery, so I consider this an absolute home run for the Pels. At 6'3", McCain wowed as a one and done for the Blue Devils, scoring 14.3 points, grabbing 5 boards, and dishing a few assists per game. He really toes the line between lead guard and shooting guard, able to handle the ball fairly well, but really making his mark in the shooting department, over 40% on nearly 6 threes attempted per game. With the Pels, McCain could play an off-ball role, spotting up with the space created by Zion Williamson, while also providing some of the ball handling that the team desperately needs. If he were to come around in a few areas like creation, passing, playmaking, and just generally on defense, he could be a near perfect backcourt fit next to Williamson. At number 18, we have the Magic taking a flyer on Jacoby Walter of Baylor. Walter was one of the more productive freshmen in college basketball this season, scoring 14.5 points per game for the Bears on some moderate splits, but as a former 5-star, the talent is very clearly there. I think Orlando is going to look for more immediate shooting next season, most likely on the free agent market or even via trade, but there's no sense in not taking a swing on one of the higher upside shooters in this class here midway through the first. Walter is a ways off from NBA impact, but a few years in the system working on his shot, defense and continuing to hone getting to the line, a real plus for him so far, would make him a great addition to Paolo Banchero and co. At number 19, we have the Toronto Raptors, who narrowly missed out on a top 6 pick, selecting one of my favorite guys here in this draft in Yves Missi. Missi's a really raw 7-footer who's still very much honing his general basketball skills, but despite that powered through to average 10.7 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks per game on 61% shooting in just 23 minutes with Baylor. Considering his pretty insane vertical bounce for his size, he's truly not far behind the other top center prospects for me. With that being said, Raptors fans might not be chomping at the bit to add that to the team next year with guys like Pirtle and Koloko rostered, but I love this for Toronto, who's been a real sleeper in terms of development over the last several years. I really truly believe Missi is a sleeping giant in this draft, and I think Toronto could maximize him, potentially even into a future star. Jalen Tyson from California off the board to the Cleveland Cavaliers at number 20, a team that's going to have some difficult decisions upcoming this summer. Cleveland's in a pretty precarious spot right now. They've got decisions to be made potentially between Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. They could be moving on from their 2-big lineup by putting Jarrett Allen on the table. There's just a lot of different ways they could go and a lot of potential holes to fill. In the case that Cleveland offloads a star guard, one of the more likely scenarios I see, I've gone with Tyson, who offers legit creation, shot making, and ball handling at 6'7". He's likely best utilized as a jumbo guard with the ball in his hands and could really thrive in the second unit. Even better, he can size up, place him forward, maybe even small ball 4, and I think he could offer real minutes next season. I like taking a gamble on potential talent at 20 for the Cavs. At 21, we've got one of the bigger swings in the entire draft, Khalil Ware, and I've got New Orleans taking a shot on him as their center of the future. At 7 foot, Ware was a 5-star center who bloomed a little late but came alive for Indiana as a sophomore, averaging 16 points and 10 rebounds while shooting 43% from beyond the arc on limited volume. Suffice to say, immense potential as a basketball prospect. Jonas Valanciunas really struggled to make an impact in the playoffs this year, and I struggle to see him as the long-term solution at the 5 for Nola. Ware won't be effective as a rookie, maybe even for several years or ever, but his two-way potential next to Zion Williamson as a player that can protect the rim, get easy offense, and space the floor is just too much to pass up on in this spot. And honestly, that's going to be the case for a lot of teams with Ware. Easy pick for me here at number 22, the Phoenix Suns taking the ever-translatable Kevin McCullar Jr. of Kansas fame. McCullar's long been one of the best perimeter defenders in college basketball. He's got some connective skills and really blossomed as a scorer in his most recent season, which most don't buy but really confirmed to me that he's at least going to be okay on that end in the big leagues. Phoenix is in an obviously bad spot. They've got their studs in KD, Book, and Beal, but they've sacrificed every bit of their depth to make that happen, and that tangibly came to fruition with a sweep in the postseason this year. I think most simply McCullar's going to be a long-time NBA role player capable of great defense, easy stuff on offense, and eventually a fine 3-point shot. I think he gives Phoenix a high-motor plug-and-play piece next season, which they very obviously need. Cheap reinforcements for a team potentially looking to make another run at it. Dayton's Deron Holmes, taken here at number 23 by the Milwaukee Bucks. At 6'10", Holmes somewhat is in the mold of the long line of interior threats to come before him, but he made some major improvements to his game in his third year with the Flyers to bolster his NBA outlook. Over 20 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocks while blossoming on ball and shooting 38% is really strong. I like Holmes generally as a front court piece, both backing up Giannis Antetokounmpo and playing in tandem with him. There's opportunities for easy offense, spot up shots, and some of his bigger weaknesses on D are covered by the Greek Freak. Holmes is a good player who, while he doesn't have an incredibly high ceiling, will likely be a rotational player for a long time and could help Milwaukee as early as next year. At number 24, we have really talented jumbo guard Dylan Jones, who scored over 20 points, grabbed 9.8 rebounds, and dished over 5 assists in do-it-all fashion for Weber State. The Knicks are a genuinely great basketball team, and there's already reports of them star hunting this offseason, so I really anticipate one or both of their first-round picks this year to be gone. In the case they keep them, I like Jones, who's pretty fluid within a lineup at 6'6", with real touch handling, scoring, and distributing the ball. Adding him to any mix of lineups with DiVincenzo, Deuce, or even Josh Hart is really fun. He can play decent defense, and while his off-ball game needs work, I think it's worth powering through and adding ball handling and size to New York's second unit. With the second of their picks, I have New York finally taking the much talked about Zach Edey, Purdue's longtime behemoth of a center. Edey is a massively polarizing prospect. He's of the traditional mold at 7'4" with really slow foot speed, but his collegiate domination and production speaks for itself. Over 25 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game in his last season. He was just massively impactful at an all-time rate for the Boilermakers. And I really do think Edey can be impactful in the NBA. It's just about finding a team that will utilize him, and I think the Knicks have shown to be a team that's done that in the last few years. They've got pretty decent center options with the breakout in Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson. Robinson hasn't been the picture of health. 2 seasons with just 31 games played in the last 4 years. I think Edey could get some real burn on this Knicks team and be a difference maker in the second unit throughout the season. At number 26, we have another one of my favorite prospects in the draft, Keyshawn George of Miami, another big-time gamble for the Wizards. George was a potential surprise one and done for the Hurricanes, averaging just 7.6 points and 2.2 assists in a limited role, but really shining at times with 41% three-point shooting and legit guard skills at 6'8". He is not massively athletically gifted. There's very little burst, explosion, acceleration, but we've seen some uber skilled players become stars in the league without great athleticism, and there's hints already seeping through the cracks for George in that regard. I really like George as a big swing with a low-stakes pick near the end of the first for the Wizards, who again just need to add long-term talent. His three-point shooting sticking around and him potentially turning into a secondary jumbo handler alongside other Wizards studs would be really cool. Great prospect and fit here at number 27, Marquette's Tyler Kolek joining the Minnesota Timberwolves. Kolek is an easy bet as a rotational NBA guard, pick and roll prowess, decent spot up shooting, tons of feel for the game. He's just a high floor point guard that could bring a ton of good qualities. Mike Conley is the only real Minnesota point guard who has consistency over the course of the season. Kolek could moonlight as Conley in the second unit, setting up the bigs, playing off Edwards, and just generally providing help. There's no guarantee he plays as early as next season, being that Minnesota is a really good basketball team, but it'd certainly be nice for them to have the option. At number 28, we've got the reigning but recently eliminated champs in the Denver Nuggets taking Baylor Shireman of Creighton. Shireman did a ton to help his stock at the NBA Draft Combine, especially showing his sharpshooting and strong passing feel, which would meld terrifically with the Nuggets in scrimmages. Shireman's a flamethrower from 3, 38% on over 8 attempts. He averaged nearly 4 assists in that role, and despite needing simple pathways to the rim, is a pretty great finisher, all things that I think fit the Jokic-led Nuggets really well. His 9 rebounds per game is just an added bonus. He's one of the oldest players in this class, but I think would make a real impact guy both right away and long-term in Denver. At number 29, we have the Utah Jazz using their second pick on a real flyer, Justin Edwards of Kentucky. Edwards was a 5-star and one of the top players in the 2023 high school class, ranking number 3 per RSCI. He's a really toolsy 6'7", 6'8"-ish forward, but saw a roller coaster year for the Wildcats, failing to show much consistency in really any area. Just 8.8 points on the year. Despite that, I still think Edwards has a ton of gas left in the tank, and there's few better spots to test that than with the Jazz, where he could play in the G League and sparingly fill the forward cracks on the main roster. I think there's a decently realistic chance he returns to his form as a defensive stopper, strong scorer, and impactful basketball player, and I think Utah genuinely could maximize that. Rounding out the top 30 and our 5th mock draft of the cycle is the Boston Celtics, your odds-on title favorites at the moment, taking USC's Isaiah Collier. For what it's worth, I think Collier, as a former 5-star with talent brimming throughout his game, goes much sooner than this, but I had a hard time fitting him in earlier with so many teams probably looking for win-now talent. Collier is an admittedly funky pick with the current configuration of the C's and would almost definitely not see playing time for a while, but Boston could stash him in the G League, let him develop, and bring him to light in a few years if the roster looks pretty different. They've done a great job of developing talent in recent years, and grabbing one of the highest ceiling ball handlers in the class just seems like a no-brainer at number 30.